Hi everyone, my name is Nick, and I would like to tell you a story about a genre of music that I fell in love with. It dates back to a day where I woke up and thought it would have just been another Saturday. It was my freshman year of high school, and I was looking for a day where I could just stop and smell the roses, even though I absolutely hate how flowers smell. I went for a walk around town, and without realizing how pivotal it would be, I finally went on Spotify's Pop Punk Powerhouses playlist and just clicked on the first song. Without knowing how much change it was going to make in my life, I was exposed to bands like My Chemical Romance, Blink-182, and Good Charlotte. Heard some of the power anthems the genre had to offer, like 1985, Stacy's Mom, and Scotty Does... fuck. Some of those bands ended up becoming the top bands in my rotation. However, I hadn't even seen what was happening in the genre at the time, since I was now first exposed to it. I hadn't known any of the bands that play a role in today's pop punk. Going on that walk was where it all started for me in this genre. From that day, I continue to find more bands that I only know to my friends, and that's one of my favorite parts about the genre. These bands all feel like rookie baseball players you've been watching for years, knowing their breakout was only a matter of when, not if. At the core, pop punk music has been music for the angsty youth, to feel like the problem they thought was only theirs was actually affecting the grand majority of people. It's music for when you're going through change and can evoke numerous emotions. It can make you want to put your fist in the air and start a revolution. It can make you want to rock your head back and forth as hard as you can. Or sometimes, you can get lost in the story the artist is telling with either their voice or overall performance. The music through the decades has truly been something special. In the 90s, it had its golden years, and in the 2000s, it was reinvented more than ever. But when we get to the 2010s, I think we have a lot that we can really talk about in terms of what happened to this genre. The change it went through, and change it still continues to go through. There's a lot we're going to go over, and I'll tell you my first experiences I had with pop punk. I've organized a timeline we'll be going down, but I only feel like I'll need to show it to you just a couple times, and I hope my storytelling will be able to do enough. Our main focus today will be addressing pop punk and the current state of affairs. But in order to address what's happening now, we need to see how we got here. We need to see where the genre came from. So let's dive into the world of pop punk, and we'll start in 2010s and see what we have from there. During these years, I wouldn't say that the genre had grown stagnant, but it was in a state of limbo. You know, from around 2008 to 2011, there was no talk happening in the pop-punk conversations. No big bands coming up on people's horizons. It wasn't until the genre met bands like Real Friends, Neck Deep, The Story So Far, State Champs, The Wonder Years, and Knuckle Puck. All these bands ushered in a heavier sound, story-driven songs, and it felt like the high school pop-punk just grew into college pop punk. Neck Deep even got to do collaborations with Blink-182's Mark Hoppus, where they did the track December Again, along with Mark doing the remixes to Serpents and Can't Kick Up the Roots. It was obvious the passing of the torch was happening before our eyes, or you can argue it's still happening now. As for two examples, Travis Barker and Avril Lavigne. Barker, who had the collaborative project with Machine Gun Kelly, Tickets to My Downfall. He will most likely be on or again producing Machine Gun Kelly's second pop-punk album, Born with Horns. He's signed acts like Jaden to his label and is clearly invested in these artists to hand over the kingdom that he, Mark Hoppus, and Tom DeLonge all practically helped build in the 1990s. Avril Lavigne, on the other hand, has been working with Mod Sun, and it looks like she doesn't plan on stopping with that either. Obviously, the best can't stay around forever, so it really was only a matter of time before Neck Deep was as big as Blink-182, right? These bands began to gain traction and really catch on. Early hits from these bands, and when I say early, I'm pretty much going back from like 2011 to 2013, because once we get to 2014 and 15, these years get really important for these bands. So again, early hits for these bands include from Real Friends, Floorboards, A Part of Me was a huge early track for Neck Deep. They had released it off of their Rain in July EP in 2012 and hadn't even released a debut album yet, so the band releasing a huge major hit for them put on many people's horizons. At this point, the stories so far were pretty much able to add more and more onto their popular discography, where they had Nerve, Quicksands, and then in 2013 added on Empty Space. State Champs had released The Finer Things, their sophomore record, and the opening on that album was Elevated. It goes down as one of their most classic songs, and is now one of the band's most famous closing songs for when they perform live. The album itself really just set them up to top this record. So essentially, State Champs alley-ooped themselves to put themselves into an even better position, but I'm getting ahead of myself. For the Wonder Years, Came Out Swinging is honestly one of my favorite album openers of all time. Like, perfect name, perfect sound, and it gets you fucking psyched to listen to this record. The outro as well has this way too catchy chant that pops off with this explosion of guitars and drums. It's wonderful. The song ends up kicking down to just drums and a few strums of a guitar, and then hits you with I Came Out Swinging from a South Philly basement, kicked in stale beer and sweat. This really was the best album opener they could have done. Knucklepuck had released their second EP, The Weight That You Buried, and it featured arguably one of their best songs to date because of not only the perfect opening line, "Where's your respect? And didn't your father teach you anything before he left?" But the smash-hitting drums and the guitars that sling your head back and forth are seamless. These bands at this point were all like little caterpillars inside of their cocoon. Knowing their sprout into becoming natural butterflies was going to be inevitable. So in 2015, when we saw a lot of these bands release big-time albums, it was safe to say evolution was before our eyes. At this point, State Champs, Neck Deep, and Real Friends were all on top of the world in 2015. State Champs put out Around the World and Back in October of 2015, a commercially successful record that they got in Target. Good for them, boys. It featured tracks like Secrets, which was the most popular song off the record, but it had way more to offer when you get more into it. Like tracks like Losing Myself, or on the deluxe version of the record, it had Slow Burn. Both of these tracks really just want to make you throw your arms up while in the wind of a car. State Champs put out their most popular record by far at this point, and it quickly became the one you could easily just recommend to people to get a taste of the band's sound. Then, 3 years later, Living Proof comes out. And by no means was this album any worse. I think this album was far more successful for the band, and they helped cement their identity and say, hey, we're State Champs. We have Derek, who is arguably the best voice in this genre. We have catchy guitar tunes, and we're able to back it up. And at this time, as much people wanted to say that the genre was dead, it was obvious there was devoted artists and fans who wanted to see more and more catch on to the sound they've discovered and hold near and dear to them. And goddamn, would you look at that, our boy Mark Hoppus is coming back for the track Time Machine. Real Friends had 3 albums under their belt by 2016, and what differs them from other bands was that they didn't have an album at this point that just notably popped them off. The 3 under their belt across their discography had different songs people were able to bite into and enjoy. And the other thing that made this band really special was Dan Lampton. He is the voice of this band, and he has so much of an identifiable tone that makes you feel every word that he's saying. The delivery on all of his words just leaves you there like, yeah, I get it, man. We've been there. Having this edge as a band, gritty and grimy, and it felt like all their songs were being performed in their garage, yet they had everyone standing in their driveway cheering them on. They had songs about graduating high school or coping with a breakup by listening to sad songs in your car. All these songs being interlaced with lyrics like, you'll be thinking of my sleepy eyes and bony knees. So in 2018, it was a breath of fresh air when they took themselves into a far more lyric-driven band differing from their past sound. It was obvious Composure was going to do something different and mature their sound. The guitars sounded like they were really going along with Dan's vocals, as they were going to be taking on topics like mental health, imposter syndrome, and the typical love breakup story. Even if it's cliche, this band always tackled it well. At this point, no more sleepy eyes and bony knees. Composure had tracks like From the Outside, Me First, and Get By. They were challenging Dan as a songwriter to get in touch with his emotions and make it widely known it's okay to not be okay. The album was a success for the band, but the band themselves had no clue what would be happening next. While on the neck deep side of the coin, they had released what was one of the best pop punk records of the last decade in their smash sophomore hit album, Life's Not Out to Get You. It featured what was by far the band's best work at this point, and it really did show. They become one of the biggest faces in punk, reaching #1 on the US Billboard Independent Album Chart, #2 on the UK Rock and Metal Chart. Tracks like Can't Kick Up the Roots about loving where you call home and appreciating the stories you hold growing up. Serpents, which is your breakup song on the record, but it's almost impossible not to like. Gold Steps is a song about getting through everyday life because obviously there's going to be times in life you feel like it's unraveling, but it's up to you to keep it all together and to do it for yourself because no one's going to do it for you. It also features one of their most popular songs to date, like I said, December, how Mark Hoppus remixed that, but this time on the record, the original one, December, is a breakup song, an acoustic track, about realizing the things that you should have said are in the past now, and you might as well just wish them for the best. They had dropped one of the best records we could have never anticipated. So only 2 years later, when they delivered The Peace and the Panic, it truly did leave you to wonder, was Neck Deep able to top their previously widely successful record? The Peace and the Panic had some of their highest streamed songs according to Spotify. In Bloom has over 52 million streams. Wish You Were Here is on track to be at 30 million in almost no time. While they also had what I would call their deepest song to date, 1970-something, a ballad from his son telling the story of his mother and father, who he adored and by the end reveals his father died of a heart attack. The 3-minute, 57-second track evokes so much emotion through each second of it. I will go on and say they topped their record, and I can say confidently this album is the best pop-punk album of the 2010s. I can put this album up confidently against any other that came out in this decade and truly feel passionate going track by track, this album trumps every other one. Even though during this 3-year circuit from 2015 to 2018, so while the top bands were releasing what was to be their best work, the up-and-comers, who are going to be on the rise during this 3-year circuit, started putting out really good stuff to catch people in. Waterparks released Double Dare and Entertainment, Movements released their debut album Feel Something, Trashboat released Nothing I Write You Can Change What You've Been Through and Crown Shyness, The Main released American Candy and Lovely Little Lonely, and Worcester, It's Worcester, okay? Give me this, please. I've called them Worcester my whole life and had no fucking clue they were called Waster until like last year. So please, give me this. The band is called Worcester for this video. Worcester released both Red, Green, and In Between and Identity Crisis, but this was ultimately leading up to nothing because in 2018, they had the carpet ripped out from under them. Every last band had the carpet ripped out from under them. It's July of 2018, and the yearly Warped Tour is coming around for its final year. Producer of the event, Kevin Lyman, said, "We just didn't have fun anymore, and I just want to go and have fun." I would have rather seen him pass off the event to someone else who did care about it more than him, but at this point, he just said that no one really cared about pop punk anymore, and it really was kind of far from it, but Kevin Lyman put together a lineup of artists that was going to pretty much be celebrating Warped Tour and its 25-year past. He didn't get, like, the big bands like Blink-182. He had a lineup that consisted of Issues, State Champs, Knuckle Puck, Tonight Alive, 4 Years Strong, Real Friends, Asking Alexandria, Taking Back Sunday. He was going to be trying to celebrate Warped Tour in its 25-year past. For me, though, this will be my first ever concert that I go to. Everything I'm going to see today is going to be brand new eyes, and it's stuff that I've only seen just watching YouTube videos. I'm a 16-year-old nothing who just wanted to get lost in the crowd for that day, and I had the most fun I could have ever imagined, and still have known some of those people that I met that fateful day. I have called it the greatest day of my life, and though my storytelling probably won't make it sound as crazy special, just remember, this is everything brand new to me. It's all brand new feelings that I've only anticipated of dreaming of, and it's fulfilling every single desire the more and more the day kept going on. I saw bands that meant nothing to me before that day, but to this day now, they can mean everything to me. And above all else, I mean, this big woman in the pit during 4 Years Strong comes right behind me. I had no clue where she came from, but comes up to me and says,
"Lift me up."
And I was dumbfounded to hear this from her. There's people know when they are meant to get off the ground and they are gonna be carried by a lot. As if it's the Spider-Man scene. Oh, careful, he's a hero. But oh no, I was far from a hero for lifting this lady up. Me and my friend Mike, we give her the boost, and she goes up there for about 3 seconds, and she goes maybe 5 feet. And it's just a missile plummeting. It's just, the humanity, the horror. The bands themselves, though, gave an absolute wonderful performance, knowing that it really was going to be the end of an era. Knuckle Puck went absolutely hard during their performance, and I told the story of the lady getting up there, but I got to experience a little bit of crowd surfing myself, too. I thankfully got to make it, and thankfully, during Knuckle Puck's track, Double Helix, I got to go crowd surfing, and I made it. It was great. I had my head in the clouds that day, and it truly was just awesome. Acts like Issues, 4 Years Strong, Tonight Alive, and State Champs all gave performances knowing it was really going to be the end. And John from the Main closed out his performance perfectly when he said,
"Take care of one another. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you when we're looking at you. Thank you very much."
It's not just a goodbye, but it's more of which saying, listen, life plays out the way it does. We're going to see each other if we both want to see each other. It's a two-way street. We have to both make this happen if we really want to. And, the first time I really heard that, it left me with a little bit of unease, but it was a good way. There was something different that came over me, though, when I saw Real Friends come out. This band that I have been following for so many years, I got to see them when I was just 16 and being about 8 feet from them. It was really fucking cool. Actually, no, I'm exaggerating. 8 feet was probably too much. Like 18, let's say 18 feet, right? I was that's better. I felt connected with this group of guys, and I really just couldn't explain it. So there it is. Warped Tour is over. What's going to be coming next for the genre? What's next for 2019? What does this genre have next to offer? It's 2019, and at this point, the ball isn't moving fast enough. Neck Deep has only released a one-off single, She's a God. Knuckle Puck hasn't released anything since Shapeshifter, and above all else, what just happened to Real Friends? They deleted almost all of their tweets. They don't have a profile pic. No banner, no bio. What just happened to this band? Dan has left. And this band that was on a trampoline for a trajectory pad now has lost all of that momentum and come to a screeching halt. But who is this man who's emerging from the shadows? It's Machine Gun Kelly, here to save pop punk. The next bit isn't going to be me just complaining about Machine Gun Kelly. I think he has actually done some good for the genre, but he has come with some controversy on his shoulders as well. And he's not the only thing to talk about in regards to what was happening in pop punk by 2019 and 2020. Contrary to what many people would believe, there were far more acts fighting for the genre, wanting to see the uprise naturally happen. Hey everyone, Editing Nick here. So in my original script from here, we were going to talk about the Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly beef. But, as I began putting this video together, I'm kind of realizing it's getting a little bit long. And I didn't want to make this a part 2 because that'd just be very silly. So all that you really need to know is You know, Eminem drops Not Alike, Machine Gun Kelly disses back, Eminem took him out back, put him out of his misery, Awfully Hot Coffee Pot. However, Rap Devil was the last track before Machine Gun Kelly would roll out his next album, Hotel Diablo, which dropped on July 5th, 2019. Alright, I believe that's it because everything from there it's going to be in my original script. So, thank you. Hotel Diablo featured the closing track, I Think I'm Okay, featuring Youngblood and Travis Barker. But for Machine Gun Kelly, this was his first venture into pop punk. He had songs on previous albums that had rock influences to them, but never a song this punk-driven. It caught success like a wildfire, and the man had his first platinum single. Machine Gun Kelly from there would purely just transition into pop punk in 2020. And for the people that think his pop punk music isn't really running all that deep and just sounds like a ripoff of what used to be popular, I think you should note he helped bridge the gap in terms of mainstream pop punk. Kids who enjoyed this album and got introduced to the genre this way can begin finding their path into what pop punk bands they can connect with. Or, God forbid, they can just enjoy Machine Gun Kelly's music. He's helped put so much attention onto the genre, and more than anything, that exposure isn't bad. From here on out, I really just want to tell you what bands I've been enjoying and listening to over the last couple years and have been a strong force in guitar music, you know, whether it's pop punk, post-hardcore, alternative rock, whatever. Here are just some of the artists that I feel like have been kicking ass lately. Thank you, everyone, for hearing out what I had to say about pop punk in the last couple years. Neck Deep went on to release their fourth studio album, All Distortions Are Intentional, but yet it still wasn't good enough, I guess? Because people said that it wasn't the sound the band got famous for, which was 6 years ago, mind you, or haven't just really gotten the terms with the fact that Ben's vocals are getting higher across their albums, which, like, is fucking harder because, like, his voice isn't getting any better. Like, you know, he's getting older, so his voice is naturally going to be getting worse. You know, that's what happens with your body. It breaks down over time. However, when this album first came out, it really was the only thing I was listening to. It's a concept record that you don't really need the concept for. You don't need to know the story of Jet and his love interest Emily to enjoy this album. It's 12 songs, 40 minutes long, and all of them are fucking great. Even ones that I didn't like have actually grown on me, like the track I Revolve Around You. First time I heard that really was not it for me, so it can show this band can go full circle in making you like a song. That's about all I really have to say about the lore of pop punk and what's really been going on in this genre in the 2010s. I hope you enjoyed everything that I prepared for you, and now I'm going to be trying just to tell you all the bands that I've had in my rotation over the last couple years, and artists who, if you're really just needing someone to sink your teeth into, I think this is a great bunch of diverse artists you can find. Hot Mulligan, baby. This band is so easy just to sink your teeth into, and if you're really looking for a band that has a different kind of energy, definitely this is one to check out. Tade's vocals instantly made him a recognizable voice in pop punk and emo. So that's why when you hear them doing acoustic tracks, his voice belts like a lightning bolt. The tracks themselves, too, have incredible names, like Please Don't Cry, You Have Swag, Pop Shove It, Hall of Meat Duh, and oh my god, our boy is back. Well, not really. Featuring Mark Hoppus. Paris, truthfully, is a band more people need to be talking about. I've pretty much followed them all the way back in 2014 when they had their debut record, White Noise, and from here, it's really cool to see what happened to this band. Because 3 years later, they ended up releasing their second album, All We Know of Heaven and All We Need of Hell. But in 2018, the band's lead singer, Lynn Gunn, had revealed herself that she was the band. She was producing the music, she was writing it all. Paris was Lynn, and Lynn was Paris. The band itself still followed her on tour and such, but it became obvious Paris was a one-person show, and what a one person it had running it. If you haven't already checked out Kenny Hoopla, you are genuinely missing out on the best name in pop punk right now. Other names would be like Stand Atlantic, Nothing Nowhere, and Again Movements, but Kenny Hoopla has a great head on his shoulders, and ever since I found him back on tracks like How Will I Rest in Peace If I'm Buried by the Highway, you can listen to tracks like Sore Loser, Plastic Door, Lost Cause. All of these tracks just have a great ambience to them where it feels like you're walking down this foggy, cracked sidewalk where the street lights are just, they're on and they're flickering and it just doesn't seem good enough, but it's also like 6 in the morning and you don't know really where you are. I love his music and really the ambience that he's able to make. Lastly, if you are going to listen to one artist that I recommend to you, Grandson is that artist. I have listened to this man's discography top to bottom, and I really have only found 2 or 3 songs that I'm not throwing on, like, semi-frequently. He makes music about standing up for the problems that show up in today's society, like police brutality, governmental and environmental accountability, and social injustice. And he said about today's music scene, the world needs honest rock and roll now more than ever. This is an artist where if there was a fantasy draft, I would be taking him in the first round without question. I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who watched this video. You were under zero inclination to, no one held a gun to your head, I hope. You made the choice yourself to give me your time, and that's really all I'm going to ask for. You don't have to like or subscribe. You can make that choice for yourself, okay? You're a big boy or girl, and you can make your own decisions. But if you want to invest in a kid's future, you'd be doing more than just that. Thank you, everyone, and I think I'll see you in the next video. I have an idea for what it's going to be. It is another music-related video, but I don't want the channel to be strictly related to music. But like I said previously, artists don't want to leave themselves inside of a cage creatively. So I will just tell you one more time, thank you very much for giving me your time. I don't have the perfect thing to say to you, the perfect outro, the perfect catchy thing to say. So I guess I'll just say, peace. I really just wanted to have my head in the clouds and just get lost, really. No, fuck. Neck Deep is only releasing a... Wow.